wind howled, a mournful sound that seemed to seep into the very metal of my car. I'd been driving all day, trying to outrun something I couldn't quite name, and exhaustion had finally caught up to me. The nearest town was miles behind, and the idea of a cheap motel felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. So, I'd pulled off onto a deserted country road, the kind that felt forgotten by time, and decided to brave a night in my beat-up sedan. The darkness outside was absolute, broken only by the weak glow of the moon and the distant, lonely gleam of a farmhouse's porch light. I reclined the passenger seat as far as it would go, pulled my jacket tighter, and tried to ignore the unsettling quiet. Sleep, when it finally came, was shallow and restless. I jolted awake to a sound that wasn't the wind, a low, guttural scraping, like something heavy being dragged across gravel. It was close, too close. My eyes snapped open, but in the blackness I could see nothing. Panic, cold and sharp, pricked at my skin. I fumbled for my phone, the screen a blinding beacon in the oppressive dark. No signal, of course. The scraping stopped. A moment of silence hung in the air, taut and suffocating. Then, a soft, insistent thudding began against my driver's side door. Not a banging, but a deliberate, rhythmic pressure. I held my breath, straining to hear. The thudding continued, steady, relentless. It felt less like someone trying to break in and more like a patient, unnerving presence. I dared to peek through the gap in my curtains, my heart hammering against my ribs. At first, I saw only the inky blackness. Then, a subtle shift. A form began to coalesce in the gloom, impossibly tall and gaunt, leaning against the doorframe. It wasn't human. The proportions were wrong, the limbs too long, too thin. It was as if the shadows themselves had taken on a grotesque, physical form. I recoiled, pressing myself back into the seat, my breath catching in my throat. The thudding stopped. Instead, a low, rasping whisper seeped through the thin metal of the door, a sound that felt ancient and filled with an unspeakable hunger. It wasn't words, not in any language I understood, but a series of clicking, hissing sounds that sent shivers down my spine. The pressure on the door intensified, a visible bulge appearing in the metal. I could feel the vibrations through my seat. Then a single, impossibly long, skeletal finger began to trace slow, deliberate patterns on the glass. It wasn't trying to break in, not directly. It was communicating. Or perhaps it was playing. Terror, raw and primal, seized me. I knew I couldn't stay. With trembling hands, I jammed the key into the ignition, praying the old engine would roar to life. The scraping sound intensified outside, a frantic, enraged scuttling. The engine sputtered, coughed, and then, blessedly, roared to life. The headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the spot where the entity had been. It was gone, but the gravel was disturbed, deep gouges marring the surface, as if something immense had been dragged away in haste. I didn't look back. I drove until the sun rose. The image of that shadowy finger on my window burned into my mind. I never stopped on deserted roads again. Hello, creatures of the night. Aqeela here from the Aqeela Files. Did you ever feel like you're being watched? like something ancient and hungry is out there, just beyond the light. Because if you drive alone on deserted roads, it might be waiting for you. Sleep tight if you can.